The blood on her face is not her own. Brenia is 26 years old, and she can feel it drying in the cold wind, can taste copper when her lips crack open, can smell the smoke from her burning village mixing with the iron salt scent of the massacre that ended 3 hours ago. She was until sunrise this morning queen of the nervy wife of King Bodhanatus, mother of 2 sons, priestess of the sacred grove, the most powerful woman, a nation of warriors who had never been conquered. Now she kneels in the mud beside 600 other women, her royal talk ripped from her neck, her ceremonial robes torn to expose her body to the February wind, her wrists bound behind her back with rope that cuts into flesh. Every time she moves around her, Roman soldiers move through the prisoners with the efficiency of men who have done this many times before, separating the young from the old, the beautiful from the plain, the valuable from the disposable. And they are coming for her, she knows. This because a Roman officer has been watching her since the sorting began. He stands apart from the common soldiers, his armor marking him as a legatus, legion commander, one of the most powerful men in the Roman military hierarchy. His face is handsome in the way that predators are handsome, sharp, and composed, and utterly without mercy. He has not spoken to her, he has not approached, he has simply watched, and his watching is worse than anything the common soldiers might do. He begins walking toward her. Now this one, his Latin is crisp, educated, the accent of Roman aristocracy. The queen, bring her to my tent, have her cleaned but not clothed. I want to examine what we've captured. A soldier moves to grab her. She does not resist. Resistance here means death, and death means abandoning her sons who are somewhere in this chaos, who might still be alive if she can find a way to protect them. But as she is lifted to her feet, she sees something that stops her heart. Her husband's head mounted on a Roman spear displayed at the edge of the prisoner compound, where every captured Nervian can see what happened to their king. Badugnatus is dead, the man she has loved since childhood, the father of her children, the king who swore to protect their people, dead and displayed like a trophy for Roman entertainment. She does not scream, she does not weep, she locks the grief somewhere deep inside her, somewhere it cannot interfere with what she must do next, because now she understands something that changes everything. She is the last authority of the Nervi. With Boduatus dead, she is not merely a captured queen, she is the vessel of her nation's sovereignty, the keeper of its sacred knowledge, the only person alive who knows where the trib's treasury is hidden, where the druids concealed the artifacts that must never fall into Roman hands, where her sons were sent when the battle turned against them. The Romans do not know this yet. They see only a queen valuable as a trophy, useful as a hostage, entertaining as a conquest. They do not know what they have actually captured, and she intends to use that ignorance to destroy them. What you are about to learn has been systematically excluded from the histories that celebrate Rome's conquest of the barbarian North. The historians who documented Julius Caesar's GIC wars focused on battles and strategies, on the genius of Roman military organization, on the civilizing mission that supposedly justified the conquest of peoples who had lived freely for centuries. They recorded casualty figures in the hundreds of thousands, entire nations destroyed, populations enslaved, cultures erased from the earth, but they did not record what happened to the women. Tonight you will learn what Roman legions actually did when they conquered tribal peoples. You will learn about the systematic processing of captured women, the hierarchies that determine their fates, the specific horrors reserved for the wives of defeated chiefs who represented the highest value captures. You will learn about Brina, queen of the Nervi, who watched her husband's head mounted on a Roman spear and decided in that moment that she would not merely survive, she would find a way to make Rome pay for what it had done. Subscribe if you want to understand the true cost of Rome's conquests. Comment below telling me where you are watching from, because Brina is about to enter the tent of Legatuscus Cornelius Scipio, and what happens in that tent will determine whether she lives or dies, whether her sons survive or perish, whether the Nervi have any future at all. But I need to warn you about something first. This story does not go where you expect it to go. There will be moments when you think you understand what is happening. There will be moments when you think you know who the villains are and who the heroes are. There will be moments when you think the ending is obvious. You will be wrong, because what Roman legions did to the wives of defeated tribal chiefs was more complicated than simple brutality. It was a system, and systems can be manipulated by people who understand them. Brina understood systems, and she was about to demonstrate what that understanding could accomplish. The tent of Legatus Gars Cornelius Scipio was larger than the house Brina had grown up in. Canvas walls enclosed a space that contained furniture, carpets, bronze lamps, a writing desk covered with maps and documents, all the apparatus of Roman military administration, transported across hundreds of miles so that a commander could maintain civilized comfort while destroying civilizations. She was brought inside by soldiers who positioned her at the tent center, then withdrew to guard positions by the entrance. She was alone with the Legatus. Scipio circled her slowly, examining her the way he might examine a horse he was considering purchasing. The queen of the Nervi, he said, wife of Bodognatus, who killed 3,000 of my men before we brought him down, mother of 2 sons who have apparently vanished. We are still searching. He stopped in front of her, his eyes meeting hers. And priestess of your people's sacred grove. That's the detail that interests me most. She said nothing. Let him talk. Let him reveal what he knew and what he didn't. The Druids performed their rituals in that grove, he continued. They kept records there, artifacts, treasures accumulated over centuries. My scouts found the grove, or what was left of it, after your people burned it, but they found nothing of value, just ash and bones. Still, she said nothing, which means the Druids moved their treasures before we arrived, and the only people who would know where they moved them are the Druids themselves, who died defending the grove, or the king, who is decorating spear outside, or the queen. He smiled. I am a woman. The Druids did not share their secrets with women. The Druids made exceptions for queens who were also priestesses, your people's own Traditions confirm this. You were initiated into mysteries that ordinary women were forbidden to know. He was well-informed, too well-informed. Someone had told him things that only a Nervian would know. What do you want? She asked. I want the druid treasures. I want the tribal treasury that your husband hid before the battle. I want the location of your sons who are heirs to a throne that no longer exists, but who might still be useful as hostages. He paused. And I want you to cooperate, willingly rather than requiring persuasion, and if I refuse, then I persuade you. There are methods that work on almost everyone given enough time and creativity. I would prefer not to damage you. Undamaged queens are more valuable, but I will if necessary. What do you offer in exchange for cooperation? The question surprised him. She saw it in the slight shift of his expression. He had expected please or defiance or silence. He had not expected negotiation. You are not in a position to negotiate. Everyone is always in a position to negotiate. I have information you want. You have power over my survival and my children's survival. That is the basis for a transaction. The transaction is simple. You tell me what I want to know, or I hurt you until you tell me. That transaction destroys the value of what I'm offering. Torture produces unreliable information. People say whatever will stop the pain. If you want accurate locations for treasures and children, you need my genuine cooperation, not words extracted through suffering. Scipio studied her with new interest. You've thought about this. I had 3 hours in the mud watching your soldiers sort prisoners. That is a long time to think. What do you want in exchange for the information? My sons' lives, not their freedom. I know that is impossible, but their lives assigned to household service. Somewhere they will be fed and sheltered and permitted to grow to adulthood. That might be arranged. And my own life, not freedom, not comfort, but life assigned to purposes that do not involve the special entertainment that I know awaits captured queens. You know about that. Your soldiers are not quiet. They discuss what happens to valuable female prisoners. The centurion who bound my wrists explained in detail what I could expect if I did not cooperate with whatever was demanded. Scipio was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted, less predatory, more businesslike. If your information proves accurate, I can guarantee your son's survival. I can assign them to my own household, where they will be treated as valued property rather than disposable labor. And me. You are more complicated. A queen of the Nervi is a significant trophy. There are expectations about how such trophies are displayed and used, but he paused, considering there might be alternatives. Depending on how valuable your information proves to be, I need more than might be. I need specific commitments before I reveal anything. You are negotiating as if you have leverage. You don't. I have the only accurate information about treasures that represent years of your soldiers' pay. I have knowledge about my son's location that your search parties will not find without my help. I have the ability to give you true information or false information, and you will not know the difference until your men have wasted weeks following wrong directions. She met his eyes steadily. I have leverage. The question is whether you are intelligent enough to recognize it. A long silence. Scipio's expression was unreadable. Then he laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who had encountered something unexpected and was genuinely amused. I have conquered 6 tribes in 4 years, he said. I have processed thousands of prisoners. Chiefs, warriors, priests, queens, none of them have spoken to me the way you just did. Perhaps none of them understood their situation as clearly as I do. Perhaps. He moved to his desk, poured wine into 2 cups, brought one to her. Her hands were still bound. He held the cup to her lips so she could drink. Tell me about the treasury. If your information is accurate, we will discuss terms for everything else. She drank, then she began to talk, but she did not tell him the truth. She told him a version of the truth, accurate enough to be verified in the short term, inaccurate enough to waste his time and resources in the long term. The treasury was hidden, yes, but not where she said it was. The direction was right. The distance was wrong. By the time his men discovered the deception, she would have created opportunities that did not currently exist. She was playing a game that Scipio did not realize had begun, and she was playing it to win. Let me stop here to explain something about how Roman legions processed captured women, because without this context, you cannot understand what Brina was navigating. When a tribe was conquered, its women became property of the Roman state. The disposition of that property followed a specific hierarchy based on the women's perceived value. At the bottom were common women, farmers' wives, craftsmen's daughters, the ordinary population of the defeated tribe. These women were sold in bulk to slave traders who transported them to markets throughout the empire. They became agricultural laborers, domestic servants, prostitutes in roadside establishments, whatever purposes buyers found for them. Above them were skilled women, weavers, brewers, women with craft knowledge that made them more valuable than common laborers. These women were sold individually, often at significant premiums, to buyers who wanted their specific skills. Above them were noble women, the wives of warriors and minor chiefs, women whose status in the tribal hierarchy translated into perceived quality. These women were often kept by officers as personal servants or concubines, or sold to wealthy Romans who wanted exotic companions. And at the top were queens and princesses, the wives and daughters of tribal kings, the highest value captures, the trophies that demonstrated Roman power most dramatically. Queens had special value because they represented the complete subjugation of the defeated nation. Queen kneeling in chains demonstrated that even the highest status in barbarian society meant nothing against Roman power. Queens were displayed in triumphs, the ceremonial processions through Rome that celebrated military victories. They were given to important men as gifts, demonstrating the gift giver's access to rare treasures. They were sometimes kept alive for years, their continued existence serving as ongoing proof of Rome's dominance. But queens also faced specific horrors that other captives were spared, because queens represented their nation's sovereignty. Their degradation had to be complete and public. They were stripped of all markers of their former status. Jewelry, clothing, symbols of rank, They were renamed with Latin names that erased their identities. They were forced to perform acts of submission that demonstrated their acceptance of Roman authority, and they were made available to their captors in ways designed to maximize humiliation. The special entertainment that Brenia had referenced was well documented in sources that Roman historians later tried to suppress. Captured queens were often assigned to officers' quarters for hospitality purposes, a euphemism for systematic intimate use by whoever the commanding officer wished to reward. They might serve dozens of men over weeks or months, their royal status adding spice to what would otherwise be ordinary abuse. This was the fate Brina was trying to avoid. This was the system she was trying to manipulate. This was the horror that awaited her if her gamble failed, and her gamble was about to get more complicated. The morning after her first conversation with Scipio, Brina was moved from the prisoner compound to a tent near the Legges' quarters. It was a servant's tent, small, uncomfortable, guarded, but it was private, and privacy was valuable. She was also given clothing, not her royal robes, which had been taken as trophies, but a simple tunic that covered her body and provided some protection against the February cold. The clothing was a signal she was not yet being treated as ordinary captured property. The signal meant Scipio was still negotiating. She spent the morning thinking through her situation. False information she had provided about the treasury would take time to verify. Scipio would send soldiers to the location she had described. They would search, they would find nothing, and Scipio would return to demand the truth. She had perhaps 3 days before that happened, 3 days to find her sons, 3 days to identify allies or vulnerabilities, 3 days to construct a better position than the one she currently occupied. She began by listening. The tent's walls were canvas, and canvas transmitted sound. She could hear soldiers passing, officers conferring, the routine business of a Roman military camp continuing around her. She listened for information, names, numbers, plans, anything that might be useful. What she heard instead was a conversation that changed everything. 2 officers speaking Latin that they assumed no barbarian prisoner could understand, but Brenia had learned Latin years ago. Traitors came through nervy territory regularly, and a queen who could speak with them directly was more valuable than one who required interpreters. Scipio thinks she knows where the treasury is hidden. One officer said she probably does. The question is whether she'll tell the truth. He's offering her the standard arrangement, survival in exchange for cooperation. Will she take it? Who knows? These barbarian queens are unpredictable. Some of them cooperate immediately. Some of them hold out for weeks before breaking. She seems intelligent, which could go either way. What about her sons? The search parties haven't found them. Scipio thinks she knows where they are too, but she's holding that information back, using it as additional leverage. Where would she have hidden them? Could be anywhere. The Nervi had allies throughout the region. She might have sent them to another tribe before the battle, or hidden them with sympathizers in the countryside, or the second officer's voice dropped. What about the Druid network? what about it? The Druids maintained safe houses throughout Gaul, places where they hid people and objects that needed protection. If the queen was really a priestess, she would know about those safe houses. The Druid network was destroyed when Caesar swept through Gaul, was it, or did it just go underground? A pause. That's a dangerous line of speculation. If the network survived, if there are still Druids operating secretly throughout the province, then there might be organized resistance that we haven't detected, and the queen might be connected to it. Scipio needs to know this. Scipio already suspects. Why do you think he's being so careful with her? She's not just a trophy, she might be a source of intelligence about threats we don't know exist. The officers moved away, their conversation fading beyond Brina's hearing, but she had heard enough. Druid network, the safe houses, the possibility of organized resistance. The Romans suspected what she knew for certain. The Druids had not been destroyed, they had scattered, hidden, waited, and Brinia knew how to contact them. She also now understood why Scipio was treating her differently than he treated ordinary captives. He didn't just want the treasury, he wanted to use her to expose the network she belonged to, which meant she was more valuable than she had realized, and more dangerous to him than he had realized. That afternoon, a visitor came to her tent. He was younger than Scipio, perhaps 30, with features that marked him as Roman, but with something in his manner that suggested he was not quite the same as the other officers. His name, she would learn, was Marcus Aurelius Cato, and he was a tribune attached to the legion for purposes he did not initially explain. The legatus told me you speak Latin, he said, entering the tent without ceremony. Fluently, apparently. Where did you learn? Traitors my people dealt with Rome for generations before Rome decided to conquer us. You don't seem surprised to see me. I am surprised by nothing anymore. Surprise requires expectation, and I no longer have expectations. Ko sat on the single stool the tent contained, studying her with curiosity rather than the predatory assessment she had seen from Scipio. I've read about your people, he said. The nervy Caesar wrote that you were the bravest of the Belg, that you refused to negotiate or surrender, that you nearly destroyed his army before he managed to defeat you. We did not nearly destroy his army, we destroyed 2 legions entirely and reduced 3 others to fragments. He rebuilt with reinforcements and returned to finish what we had started. You know your history. I lived my history. My father died in the battle against Caesar. My first husband died in the battle against Scipio's predecessor. My second husband, the one whose head is displayed outside, died yesterday. She met his eyes. I know Roman military history better than most Romans because my family has paid for it in blood, and now you're a prisoner negotiating for survival with a man who wants to extract everything you know before discarding you. That is accurate. What if I told you there was another option? She was immediately suspicious. Nothing about this felt right. A young tribune appearing with offers that contradicted what Scipio had proposed. I would ask what you want in exchange. Confirmation of something I suspect but cannot prove. Ko leaned forward. The Druid network is It's still active, she said nothing. I'm not asking because I want to destroy it. He continued, I'm asking because I'm part of a faction in Rome that believes the current approach to Gaul is unsustainable. We cannot hold this province through terror forever. Eventually, there must be accommodation, integration, something other than endless conquest and suppression. Romans who want peace with the people they've conquered, that seems unlikely. We're a minority, yes, but we exist, and we believe that establishing contact with whatever remains of the Druid network could be the first step toward a different kind of relationship between Rome and the peoples it has conquered. You want me to betray my people by revealing their secrets to Romans who claim to want peace, but who might actually want to complete the destruction that Scipio has begun. I want you to consider whether there is a path forward that does not end with your death and your son's enslavement, and if I refuse to consider it, then you remain in Scipio's custody, subject to his methods until he extracts what he wants, or destroys you in the process. The outcome is the same either way. The only question is how much you suffer before reaching it. Brenia was quiet for a long moment. Carter was either telling the truth or executing a sophisticated manipulation designed to make her reveal what torture could not extract. She had no way to know which, but she had learned something important. There were factions within the Roman command, different officers with different purposes, conflicts she might be able to exploit. I will think about what you have said, she told him. Think quickly. Scipio Unc's patience is limited, and my ability to offer alternatives depends on acting before he commits to a particular course. Left, Brenia sat in the silence of her tent, thinking. She had been playing one game, negotiating with Scipio for survival. Now she discovered there was a second game being played around her with stakes she did not fully understand. The question was which game gave her the better odds of protecting her sons and punishing the men who had destroyed her people. She did not yet know the answer, but she was beginning to see possibilities she had not seen before. I need to tell you something important before I continue. Everything I have described so far, the capture, the negotiation with Scipio, the visit from happened in the first 36 hours. After the Nervi were conquered, Brenia was operating in a fog of shock, grief, and desperate improvisation, trying to construct a strategy from fragments of information and limited options. What happened next changed the nature of the game entirely, because on the morning of the second day, Scipio's soldiers returned from their search for the treasury. They had found it not where Brenia had told them it was hidden, but they had found it anyway through methods she had not anticipated. They had a map, a detailed map showing the real location of the Nervi treasury, the Druid artifacts, the safe houses she thought were secret, a map that could only have come from someone who knew the same thing she knew. Someone had betrayed her people, and when Scipio summoned her to his tent to confront her with the map, she recognized the handwriting on its margins. It was her brother's handwriting. Caddoc, her younger brother who had been captured in the battle, who she had assumed was dead or enslaved with the other warriors. Caddoc, who knew almost everything she knew about the tribe's secrets, who had been initiated into the Druid mysteries. Alongside her, Caddoc, who had apparently traded everything he knew for whatever Scipio had offered him. You lied to me, Scipio said, his voice flat. With controlled anger, you gave me false locations, tried to waste my time. Thought you could manipulate me with partial truths. Who gave you that map? Your brother. He was more cooperative than you, or perhaps simply more realistic about his situation. What did you offer him? Freedom, a new identity, passage to a province where no one knows who he was. He betrayed everything for the chance to survive as something other than a slave. Brinia felt the rage building in her chest, but she forced it down. Rage would not help her now. So, you have the treasury, you have the locations. What do you still need from me? I need confirmation of what your brother told me about the network. He knew about the safe houses, but he did not know how to contact the people who used them. He said only the senior priestesses knew the contact protocols. And you are the only senior priestess still alive, and if I refuse? Scipio Unk's expression hardened. Then you have no remaining value to me, and I will dispose of you in the manner appropriate for prisoners who have proven uncooperative. The special entertainment, starting tonight. If you prefer, I have officers who have been asking about you. Brinia calculated quickly. Caddoc's betrayal had destroyed most of her leverage. She no longer had exclusive information about treasures and locations, but she still had knowledge of the network, knowledge that Scipio wanted and Co wanted, and that might be the difference between survival and destruction. I need time to think. You have until sunset, then I will make the decision for you. She was returned to her tent with guards who watched her more closely than before. Scipio's trust, if it had ever existed, was gone. She had hours to think, hours to decide whether to reveal what she knew about the network, whether to trust Co's claim of Roman factions that wanted peace, whether to gamble on possibilities that might not exist. And she had something else to think about. Her brother Caddoc, who she had loved since childhood, who had betrayed everything for his own survival. She understood why he had done it. The choice between cooperation and destruction was not a choice at all. It was a calculus of suffering, and Caddoc had calculated that revealing secrets was better than enduring torture. She might have made the same choice if she had not had sons to protect, but understanding did not mean forgiveness. Caddoc's betrayal had cost her leverage, had put her sons in greater danger, had destroyed options that might have saved not just her, but others who depended on the network's continued secrecy. If she survived this, she would have to decide what to do about Caddoc, but first she had to survive. Late in the afternoon, Co returned. I heard about the map, he said without preamble. Your brother's cooperation has complicated things. You seem to know everything that happens in this camp. I make it my business to know. Information is power. I assume you understand that, given how you've been trying to use your own information. What do you want, Tribune? I want to offer you an alternative before Scipio's deadline arrives, a path that does not lead to the special entertainment or the surrender of everything you know about the network. I'm listening. There are People in Rome who would find your knowledge valuable, not for destroying the network, but for using it as a channel for communication, as a foundation for future accommodation. These people would pay significantly for access to someone who could make introductions, facilitate contacts, bridge the gap between Roman administration and GIC resistance. You want to buy me, I want to acquire you. For purposes that serve both our interests, you would not be a slave in the conventional sense. You would be a consultant, an advisor, someone whose expertise is valued rather than extracted through torture, and my sons would be educated in Rome, raised as Roman citizens with Gic heritage, positioned for futures that ordinary slaves could never access. It would require them to grow up Roman rather than Nervian, but they would grow up, which is more than Scipio's plans offer them. It was a remarkable proposal too. Remarkable to trust completely. Why would Roman aristocrats want to preserve the network rather than destroy it? Because some of them understand that Gaul cannot be held forever through military force alone, because they see the network as potential infrastructure for a different kind of relationship, because they are playing long games that require assets most Romans do not value. And you represent these aristocrats. I am authorized to speak for them in matters like this. Who are they? You'll learn that if you accept. Until then, their identities are protected. Brenia considered the offer. It was either a sophisticated attempt to extract her knowledge through persuasion rather than torture, or a genuine opportunity to survive with her sons in conditions far better than anything else available. She could not tell which, but she could buy time to find out. I need to know my sons are safe before I agree to anything, she said. Scipio is still searching for them. If he finds them first, where are they? She hesitated. This was the information she had been protecting most carefully. If I tell you, can you reach them before Scipio does? I have resources that Scipio does not know about. Fast riders, local contacts, people who can move through territories that Roman patrols cannot. This could be a trap. You could be working with Scipio, offering a different approach to extract what torture cannot. It could be, but you're running out of time and your options are narrowing. With every hour, met her eyes. Your sons are hidden somewhere. If Scipio finds them, they become his leverage against you. If I find them first, they become safe, and you gain the freedom to negotiate from strength rather than desperation. He was right. She knew he was right, but trusting him meant risking everything on judgment she could not fully verify. She made her decision. There was a farmstead 3 days' ride north. The farmer is named Lugarix. He served my husband as a scout before the battle. My sons were sent to him when we knew the battle was lost. He was supposed to take them across the river into territory the Romans have not yet reached. Were supposed to. You don't know if he succeeded. I was captured before I could receive confirmation. They might still be at the farmstead. They might be across the river. They might be. She stopped. I don't know where they are now. I only know where I sent them. Nodded. I'll send riders tonight if your sons are reachable. We'll have them within 3 days, and if Scipio finds out what you're doing, then we both have problems. But Scipio is focused on the treasury recovery and the network intelligence. He's delegated the search for your sons to subordinates who are not particularly competent. We have a window. How do I know you'll actually help them? How do I know you won't just take them and use them as your own leverage against me? You don't. You're trusting me because the alternative is trusting Scipio, and we both know how that ends. Co stood to leave tonight when Scipio demands your decision about the network. Stall him. Tell him you need to see your sons before you'll reveal anything. It's the only card you have left. Play it. He left. Brenia sat in the dimming light of her tent, contemplating the web she was caught in. Scipio wanted her knowledge and would destroy her to get it. Co wanted her knowledge for different purposes and offered survival in exchange. Her brother had already traded everything he knew for freedom. Her sons were somewhere beyond her reach. Their safety depending on people she did not know and could not control. And sunset was approaching. Scipio summoned her as the last light faded from the sky. His tent was lit by oil lamps that cast moving shadows on the canvas walls. Maps and documents covered the desk, including, she noticed, the map her brother had provided. Guards stood at the entrance. Everything about the scene suggested finality. Have you made your decision? Scipio asked. I have, and I will reveal nothing about the network until I see my sons and confirm they are safe. Scipio Unk's expression darkened. That is not one of your options. It is my only option. The network knowledge is the last thing I have to trade. I will not trade it for promises that might never be kept. Bring me my sons. Let me see that they are alive and protected. And I will tell you everything you want to know. Your sons are being searched for. When we find them, when you find them, you will use them against me. Regardless of what I offer, now my only protection is maintaining value until my sons are in custody that I can verify. Bring them to me, and I will cooperate. Threaten me with torture, and you will get nothing reliable. Scipio studied her. She could see the calculation happening, the assessment of whether her stubbornness was genuine, whether breaking her was worth the time and uncertainty, whether the network intelligence was valuable enough to warrant meeting her conditions. You are gambling that I want the network more than I want the satisfaction of destroying you, he said. I am gambling that you are a practical man. Practical men do not waste valuable resources for emotional satisfaction. A long silence. Very well, Scipio said finally. I will intensify the search for your sons. When they are found, you will be given an opportunity to see them. If you cooperate after that, I will honor reasonable terms for their treatment. And if your men cannot find them, then you will have demonstrated that your value is limited to what you have already revealed or what your brother has revealed for you, at which point there will be no reason to continue treating you as anything other than ordinary captured property. I understand. I hope you do. Scipio gestured to the guards. Return her to her tent. Double the watch. She speaks to no one without my authorization. She was led away, knowing that she had bought time, but not knowing how much time or whether Ko's riders would reach her sons before Scipio's search parties did. Everything now depended on a race she could not participate in. 3 days. Past 3 days of waiting, of listening. Through canvas walls for information, of trying to read meaning into the movements of guards and the expressions of the soldiers who brought her food. 3 days during which she did not know whether her sons were safe, whether Ko's offer was genuine, whether Scipio was preparing the special entertainment that awaited uncooperative prisoners. On the 4th day Ko came to her tent. His expression told her everything before he spoke. We found them, he said, both of them alive and unharmed. Lugarix had already taken them across the river. My riders caught up with them 2 days north of Roman-controlled territory. The relief was physical, overwhelming. She had to sit down to keep from collapsing. Where are they now? Being brought south through routes that avoid Roman patrols. They should arrive at a safe location near Rome within 2 weeks. After that he paused. After that, their future depends on what happens here. What do you mean? Scipio's search parties found the farmstead. They found Logotix. Ko's voice was careful. He's been questioned extensively. He revealed that your sons had been there, but had left before the soldiers arrived. Scipio now knows they're beyond his reach, which means I've lost my leverage, which means you've lost your leverage with him, but you still have value to the people I represent, the network knowledge, the contact protocols, the safe house locations that your brother didn't know about. These are still worth something. Scipio will demand that I reveal everything now. He has no reason to wait. Scipio will demand, yes, but you will not be here when he demands. Brenia looked at him sharply. What do you mean? I have arranged transportation tonight. You will be moved out of this camp and into custody that Scipio does not control. By the time he realizes you're gone, you will be beyond his reach. The same as your sons. You can do that. Remove a prisoner from a legatus custody. I told you I represent people with significant resources that include the ability to override local commanders when necessary. And what happens to me in this new custody? You become a consultant for people who want to use the network rather than destroy it. You spend the next several years helping bridge the gap between Roman administration and JIC resistance. You raise your sons in Rome, give them Roman educations, watch them grow up as something neither fully Roman nor fully JIC. And I never return home. You never return home. The Nervi as a nation are destroyed. Scipio made sure of that. But what you know, what you can teach, what you can contribute to a different kind of future that survives, that might matter eventually. It was not the outcome she had imagined when she knelt in the mud, watching her husband's head displayed on a Roman spear. It was not revenge, not justice, not any of the things she had briefly dreamed of accomplishing, but it was survival. It was her son's survival. It was something rescued from catastrophe. When do we leave? She asked. Tonight, 2 hours after midnight. Be ready. But Brenia was not finished playing the game. She had accepted Ko's offer because it was the best available option for her sons' survival, but she had not forgotten what the Romans had done to her people, had not forgiven Scipio for the massacre, or her brother for the betrayal, had not abandoned her identity as queen and priestess of the Nervi. She spent the hours before her escape thinking about What she could still accomplish, Scipio would wake tomorrow to find his valuable prisoner gone. He would be humiliated, his authority undermined, his career damaged by the loss that was something. A small revenge but real. Her brother Caddoc had been given freedom and a new